start on the hour, but please do put in the chat. Let us know that you can hear us. Let us know where you are. Let us know if you've been with us for all 4 days. And any sort of feedback, comments would be great. Let us know where you are in the world. It's been fabulous having people join us from everywhere. It's been wonderful. And I'd like to welcome Andrew Jeffrey, who was with us on day 2, and Charlotte Rance, who I'm sure some of you might have heard before. I've had a quick flick through the slides, and I know it's going to be a fantastic session. I'm really
Very
looking
good
forward
point.
to it.
We should put that back to the beginning, shouldn't we? Don't want to give away the secrets before we start.
Absolutely.
No.
So do say if you're joining us for day 4. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, who's got the full set? That's quite impressive if you've got all 4. Should do some kind of award, Amanda, for anyone who puts up with us for the whole week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thailand. Hi, Thailand. Hello, India.
6:30 p.m. in India. Good evening.
Oh,
St.
lovely.
Lucia. I bet you're a little warmer than we are here in the UK.
Yeah. Oh, Ian, yes. I was at St. Lucia a few years back, and I was lucky enough that I'll just throw my books on the floor, shall I? I was I was lucky enough that it coincided, honestly, coincidentally, with the Indian Premier League. So I got to watch some fantastic cricket at the Darren Sammy Stadium, which I'm sure you know well. Hello from Kuwait. Oh, Macau. I think you win the furthest east so far. Hello in Beirut.
But look at that, 8 a.m. in Jamaica, 9 p.m. in Macau.
Good Lord. I don't want to be accused of racially stereotyping, but is there such a thing as 8 a.m. in Jamaica? I mean, if I was in Jamaica, I'd just lie in, I think, and enjoy myself. Fantastic. Yeah, beautiful Jamaica. You'll get no argument. Hello, Amy. Oh, we definitely saw Amy on Tuesday.
Andrew, you are just a little bit crackly still. I don't know if there's anything that you can
lift the cup.
Can do.
Or unplug and replug, maybe?
Maybe the connection's a little bit
loose.
Right. Loose, yes. For anybody who has missed any of the sessions, we will be sending out a link to watch every single session again. If you have joined us for all 4 days, there is a special certificate to say congratulations and thanks very much for being part of our 4 days of maths.
Oh, wow. Lots and lots of... Oh, no, we've lost Andrew.
I'm sure he'll be back
he's back again. There he's just testing, sorting out his microphone. No problem. Ooh. Good evening, Rena in Qatar.
Is that better? There we go. Is that better?
Yeah. Oh, that's much better. Yes.
Boom. We'll stick
Oh, Needy, thank you so much. That's so
nice.
kind.
Oh.
Hello, Charlene in Belize. Wonderful. Paola in Colombia. Excellent.
Charlotte, if someone said I don't miss any of your sessions, I would think about taking that 2 ways, to be honest.
Well, I'm an English teacher, so I get to choose how I interpret words, and I'm taking it positively, as I'm sure it was meant.
I would. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I just thought, if someone said I don't miss you, I'd go, oh.
Oh, Andrew, no.
I miss you. We had such fun, didn't we, on those?
We did. Andrew and I, we may be on different sides of the education spectrum. Me as an English teacher and Andrew as a maths teacher, but we have worked together before, so it's always nice to work together, isn't it?
Well, we seem to get on pretty well. You know what? That's all good.
That's good.
Hello, Paola. Checking in.
Hi, Paola.
Is that the Paola I've met?
It might be. She does say Macmillan Education Consultant.
Okay, I think we'll get started. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for day 4 of our applying maths series. We've covered making maths in the real world. We've looked at inclusivity in the classroom and in teaching. And we've looked at well-being. And today we've got a fantastic session for you, which is all about teaching maths through storytelling. I'm really happy to welcome Andrew Jeffrey, who's written loads of books about maths and is a consultant and expert in maths teaching, and maths magic as well.
I
And
was going to
Charlotte
say that.
Rance, who I'm sure some of you might have been to some of her webinars before. Absolutely amazing English teacher and expert and consultant, and has worked with us for a long time. So there will be a certificate coming out to you at the end of this. You will get a copy of all the recordings, including today's, and a copy of all the slides. Do use the chat, keep it live and fresh, and we'll do our best to answer your questions as we go through. So thanks very much, and over to Charlotte and Andrew.
Okay, thanks, Amanda.
All right.
All right, Andrew, do you want to say anything before we get going?
Just I'm really looking forward to sharing some stories, and just ought to warn you that Charlotte and I talk a lot, so that's probably my cue to actually stop talking and get into the good stuff. So I'm going to throw it straight back at you. It's nice to be with you, everyone.
If you want a webinar to finish on time, we are not the two presenters you necessarily need for that. Cool. All right, so let me start by telling you what we are going to do today. Oh no, why have I lost control? This was all working fine just now.
Do you want me to click on?
Yeah, can you? Hey, all right, Brill. I've lost control to Andrew. It's going to be a battle. So we're going to start by looking at storytelling, because storytelling is a very important tool, not only in English language, but in education widely. We're going to be talking about the power of metaphors, and then we're going to be looking at different ways that we can unlock word problems. Andrew is, of course, the mathematics expert. I'm here to represent the story side of things. So I'm going to get going by giving you a bit of background. Oh, I do have control again now. Brill. So, our first question: why do stories matter? And I have found this lovely quote from Albert Einstein. Now, Albert Einstein, not an English teacher, definitely more on the scientific mathematics side of things. But he said, if you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. And if you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. So, very quickly in the chat box, what do you understand from this quote? If you had to put this in your own words, what do you think Albert Einstein means by this? Let's see. Children like stories. Absolutely. I think all children love a story. But just because I like something doesn't mean it's going to make me any smarter, does it? Ooh, Carlay has come up with imagination. Can you tell us a bit more? Why do you think imagination is important? Oh, I love that from I should be wearing my glasses. Manjusha, that's a lovely, lovely, lovely thing to say. Children get to know more about the world which they have not encountered. Yes, stories can open doors, can't they? They can show us things that we've never seen and take us to places we've never been to. Yeah, as Sumi says, they can put us in our situation. They can change our environment. They can change where we are. And as you know, as we have seen, and as we know from all through histories, stories have always been an important part of how we learn, of how we communicate. Ah, yes, thank you, Andrew. Imagination more important than knowledge. Lovely quote there. Yeah, yes, fabulous. Yeah, and as I'm saying, they have always been there from the very earliest times. The cave paintings on the walls from the very earliest moments depict stories. It's storytelling through pictures, messages that need to be shared, important information that needs to be shared. So, let's do it that way. Why? Why do stories matter? Why do stories matter in education? There are so many ways we could look at it. Number one, I think one of the ones that I always come to first is they are motivating. We love to be told a story, as you've already said in the chat box. But not only do we love that, they help us to make sense of new ideas. Hello, Stephanie, saying hello in the chat box. Yeah, they help us to make sense of new ideas. We can learn a lesson through a story. We can think of things like traditional tales and Aesop's fables, all of those old historical stories that teach us how we are navigating the world around us. The leopard not changing his spots, and all of those wonderful stories that we can use to communicate big ideas from the world around us. Stories also help our memory. A good story will stay with you much more than trying to remember historical data in a sort of black and white way. If you have a story to connect it to, the things I remember from my history lessons, for example, are the things that made me interested. So the stories behind the people. But they can also help us to shape opinion. Stories inform the way we think about things. And they can also build our communication skills, our subject knowledge, and our social skills as well. Stories help us to become better people, to become part of a community. And in a classroom environment, that's a community of learners helping us to work together more effectively. Oh, lovely, brilliant. So Amina is already sharing in the chat box ways of using stories. Fantastic. And of course, as you will see during this session, they're also a useful tool of problem solving as well. But I think the most important thing we can say about stories is they help us to make connections between ideas. And if we take this in a mathematical context, they help us to understand how maths connects to everything around us. How does mathematics connect to myself? Where is my direct connection to maths? A story can help us understand how maths operates in the world around us. What is the connection there? And it can also help us to connect mathematical ideas and concepts to other mathematical ideas and concepts, making connections between what we've learnt and what we are going to learn, what we have experienced before and what we are learning now. All right. So an example here of how we can use story to help us understand mathematics. As you can see here, we've got a short explanation, and a story does not need to be fictional. Stories come in many shapes and sizes. They can be fiction, but they can equally be truth, anecdote, explanation. So here we have an example from Max Maths. This is level 4. It's taken from page 127, and it's all about Venn diagrams and how they work. And this is the story of a Venn diagram. It is the explanation of a Venn diagram. So it's a talking through an experiential story of how we can sort numbers. 5, 8, 10, 25, 31. Explaining to the children that the numbers in the left side contains the 5 times table, the right hand contains odd numbers, and that center point is the intersection between them, any numbers being taken outside. And it helps to inform that understanding, that storification, if that might be. I'm an English teacher, that's now a word. If it wasn't yesterday, it is today. Storification of mathematical problems can help us to understand them better. Right, I'm going to hand over to Andrew. I'm going to mute myself for a bit and let him talk to you in a bit more depth.
Thanks, Charlotte. That's great. I just want to actually just go back to here. There's something about stories and drama and acting things out. And there's a principle which I call kinesthetic investment. And it sounds a bit up itself, that phrase, but let me explain. If I physically do something, then it is a step ahead from somebody else doing it because I'm physically invested. For example, a number line painted on the floor, and I walk along it. And as I walk along it, I get a sense of adding a step. And if I walk backwards, I get the sense of subtracting a step. And I've planted myself in that story. If I make equal like bunny hops along it, that's effectively a model of multiplication. But the concept is there because I can imagine it. That harks back to that Einstein idea. So whenever possible, get children to act things out. Those of you who have those big plastic hoops in your sports hall, for example, you can put 2 of them on the floor, overlap them, and then go, right, okay, so I'd like all the children with blue eyes to stand in this circle, and all the children with brown hair or black hair to stand in this circle. And someone will go, oh, but I've got both. And they say, well, I'll tell you what, shall we overlap the circles a bit, and then you can stand in the middle. And what that does is it's using story, but not in the once upon a time type of way. I hope that kind of makes sense to that. So it's a great way of learning. Now, I want to share a story that called How Big is a Million? Just if anyone's seen this, total physical response. I'm loving that. Okay, that's better than my kinesthetic investment. I don't know if anyone's seen this book, but this is one of my absolute favorites. And I wanted to start by sharing it with you just because my children loved it as a story, not as a math lesson, as a bedtime story. And it's got a superb kicker as well. So just to share this with you because it's rather joyous. Here it is. How big is a million? And you know what? I don't know how big a million is. It's quite a hard thing to envisage. So I'm not going to read every page to you, much as I'd really love to. But I'll tell you. So basically, there was a little penguin called Pipkin, and he wanted to know how big a million was, and he didn't know. So he set out on a little journey, and he went to ask his mum, but his mum was busy catching breakfast. Beautiful pictures. And she said, is that a million fish? And no, he said, no, it's only 10. All right, well, never mind. That's not a million then. And anyway, to cut a very beautiful story, fairly short, he trudges off and he goes to sea. He sees some penguins, and there they are, keeping warm. And there's so much math already going on. And if you count them, there really are 100 penguins. It's beautiful. And it even brings in this idea of, you probably know this, if a bunch of penguins huddle together for warmth, they take it in turns to be in the middle, which is kind of gorgeous, really. I think we should learn from that. Anyway, it turns out there's 100. And the one in the middle says, no, there's 100 of us. I don't know how big a million is, but I'll come and help you find out. So off he goes, and he beats a seal cub, and it starts to snow. And you'll never guess how many snowflakes there are. Not a million, but 1,000. Okay, which is kind of good, really. And there actually are 1,000 snowflakes on that page, which for children is amazing. I don't know if you've experienced this. Young children love massive numbers because they excite them. And if a story does nothing but excite us, then it's captured us, as Charlotte was saying. It's kind of a hook. Okay, so 1,000 snowflakes there. Anyway, look, he goes on and on and on. He doesn't find a million of things. He goes home. He's very, very tired. He's very sleepy. His mum says, okay, come outside. I've got something to show you. So they look up into the night sky. And in the back of this book, I love this. In the back of this book, and I can't even begin to go back far enough to show you, but you'll get a hang of it. It's a poster. And on the poster, there are, there are literally 1 million stars. There really are 1 million stars on this huge poster, and all my children have absolutely adored this. It was a story we did as part of Maths Week England last year, and it's just absolutely delightful. Now you might go, well, where's that in the curriculum? And if you're asking that question, then you've really missed the point. Then, because maths can be so dry, can't it? It can be such a seemingly detached from our experience thing. Okay, today we're going to do bus stop division, or today we're going to find a percentage of a 3-digit number. Why? Why? And it's a fair question, why? So I think the ability to see something so incredible hooks us, brings us in, gives us I want to know. And honestly, that poster has like that wonderful wow moment. Not all books have that kind of wow moment. But I thought I'd start there because that's like just to kind of get a sense of my my passion about these things. But there's a few other books I want to mention to you. The Number Devil. Now, this is a novel. This is for older children. It's about a boy who has a dream, and this boy hates maths. So if you have children with the reading age of, I'd say, an 11-year-old upwards, 10 11-year-olds, who don't like maths, ask them to read this book because they'll relate to the character. And this character appears to him in a dream and basically says, well, let's start with the number 1. What can we do with that? And he goes, well, not much. And actually, it turns out everything builds from the number 1. And by the end of the story, of course, he's hooked and convinced that math is a stunning and a beautiful thing. And he realizes he can do much more than he thought he could before. So that's that one. I have got here A Place for Zero. If you come across this book, this is beautiful. I see that Huda's just mentioned place value, and bang on cue. Thank you very much. Okay, this book is all about a sad little number 0, and he's a bit sad because he doesn't feel he's got a place really. Everyone else, they live in Digitaria, okay, and ones were important because they would be used for counting. 7 knew his place. That was the number of days in a week. 5 was the points on the star. 2 was handy for counting bicycle wheels, but 0 had nothing going. And look, to cut a long story short, 0 realizes that actually, if he works with somebody else, he can make a whole new set of numbers. And without 0, you can't make hardly any numbers. But suddenly with 0, you can make billions of numbers, which is just so exciting. So he gets his place. So there's a certain amount of social, personal, social, well-being involved in this story as well. Everyone has a place, but the idea that 0 can make numbers change their places, and all the numbers suddenly think 0 is brilliant. And you might be interested to know that 0 as a digit was banned. It was considered quite evil for a long time by kind of the superstitious medieval leaders who believed that you shouldn't have something that represented nothing. And so you can imagine, can't you? That's why the Romans, for example, didn't have a 0, and many counting systems didn't have a 0 to start with. So I think that's a really interesting story, especially as it will help children with more than just the maths. Okay. Next, 1 Grain of Rice. I love this story. I haven't got this one here, but you might be familiar with the old chessboard problem. And there are various versions of this story, but effectively, if you take a chessboard and you put a grain of rice on the first square, and then you double it. So on the next square, you put 2 grains of rice, and on the next square, you put 4. Yes, quite right. What's that? 4 grains of rice and 8 grains of rice. And the problem that you set to children is how many grains of rice could you put on the last square? And the absolutely fantastic result is that there isn't enough rice on the planet to fill the last square. There's not enough. It doesn't exist. All right, and it's a staggeringly big number. And so this, will you give me a grain of rice too? And so this person kind of who thought she was only asking for a small thing, they realised she was asking for all the wealth of the country. So it's a clever story. There's a fun version of that, which is a kind of bit more basic, called Minnie's Diner, where somebody goes in and orders a soup, a salad, a sandwich, some fries and a hot cherry pie. And the next person comes in and he's twice as big and he has twice as much. And it keeps going on like that and doubling. And it's kind of more accessible for younger children. But that's a really nice idea. In fact, there was... I once made a video years ago of a child trying to con his parents and said, all right, so could you give me like £1 the first day, £2 the second day, £3 the third day, and £4 the fourth day for a month? And his parents go, yep, okay. And the other kid kind of sneakily goes, I'm not greedy like my big brother. Can I just have 1p the first day and then double it 2p the second day, 4p the third day? Much less. And the parents go, oh yes, I can see you're not so greedy. By the end of the month, the second child is a millionaire. Okay, even just starting from 1p. And I think just having a lovely story to kick in, it takes away the so what of today we're going to double numbers. Takes away the so what. Here's another one. The final one for this section is called circumference and the first round table. Now, I'm a dad, so any kind of terrible dad jokes and puns I'm absolutely up for. You can more or less guess what's going to happen in this book. But there's a chap called Circumference, and they're always arguing about the table, and no one can sit round it. And, you know, Lady Di of Amateur says we should do this, and they try cutting bits off. It's a brilliant, brilliant story, all about shapes. And they cut shapes up, put them back together. And of course, they realise, an oval table, but then maybe, anyway, a spoiler, the round table it is. So they end up with a round table, and Circumference is honoured by being given the name of how far it is around the outside, etc., etc. This is a wonderful book. I mean, a wonderful book. It's got so much geometry, and I think it does the other thing which I think many children struggle with. It this avoids the trap that we fall into of writing down a learning objective with vocabulary in that children haven't met. Like, today we are going to learn about fronted adverbials. Now, what on earth is that? Why are you bothering to tell me that? Because I have no way of processing that information. So I'm anxious about that. Whereas if you give me some examples and they go, no, these are called fronted adverbials, that's so much better way around. So I think that's a great thing to do. Don't tell children that, don't give them a word they don't know in a maths context. Give them a story, give them a reason for doing it. The other day, I was in Marks and Spencer's, or M&S, as we call it here, and I grabbed a sandwich. I couldn't eat it in, so I took it away. So my takeaway was M&S, and none of that's true. But it's what I told my year 4 class earlier this week, because they are learning that the thing that you subtract from is called the minuend, and the thing you take away is the subtrahend. I mean, who remembers that, right? Well, I do, because if I do my takeaway or my subtraction from M&S, then I know the order is M and S. And I even changed the class teacher's plans, which he only just noticed yesterday, and I was in a bit of trouble. So any kind of story like that can help with vocabulary. That's enough stories for now. I will come back and share a few more stories with you in a mo, but I'm going to pop it back to Charlotte. Sorry, there we go. I didn't give you any warning of that at all, did I, Charlotte?
No, but there we go. I'm
There
there. I'm there. Yes. So as we have seen, there are lots and lots of things that we can do with our stories. And I think it's worth taking a look at the difference between those strategies. So what can we do with a story? Well, just as we have seen Andrew doing there, we can tell a story. Now, telling a story is not the same as reading a book. Reading a book, the words are on the page. Telling the story is coming from the heart. So Andrew has shown us two different perspectives there. He's shown us reading the words on the page, guiding us through, allowing the children that interaction to ask questions, to see on the page, to look at the million stars. More ideas coming out. Absolutely, Leandra. But also we can tell a story, and that might be a personal story, like Andrew's M&S story. Where's your takeaway from? It's from M&S. We're getting a bit of feedback there.
Was it me typing?
It might be. Do you want to mute your mic a minute?
I'll mute myself. Yeah, I was just replying to
okay.
Replying to the answer. Let me
yes.
mute myself.
Yeah, so we can tell a story just like that from heart. It might be something we've memorized, it might be a personal anecdote that helps to exemplify what Andrew was saying there about the well, as I think of it, the meta language, the subject language. You know, starting with a story, starting with an example from either personal anecdote or from a book can help us to introduce those big ideas. We can also retell stories, and often the best way to do that is to get the children to retell those stories. Why? Because it involves them much more than just listening to us. So when we've told a story, allowing those children to go off and retell that. We can make changes when we retell. We can, and we do automatically make changes when we retell a story. But it also allows us as teachers to check that comprehension, to understand how well they have understand those contexts. Um, and of course, we can act out stories, as Andrew was saying, about the Venn diagram at the beginning there. Being able to have that physical movement allows you not just to hear, but to experience what those stories might look like. You were saying that about the Venn diagram. It reminded me of an activity that I was doing in an English language lesson, where my students formed their own pie chart. We were we were trying to establish, what percentage of the class lived in what time zones. It was an international group, and we had pie charts around. We formed a circle from a center point, and we all stood in our own little sections. And it's a great way to visualize what you're saying. And of course, we can create our own stories, and we are going to be asking you to create a little story for us a bit later. But as Leandra says, and as Andrew has commented, you know, that creation can be from the very beginning, from a base point, from our imaginations, but it might also be extending or expanding on a story, taking our original story and finishing it in a different way, or extending it, saying what happens next, and making it personal, making it belong to part of ourselves. So, lots and lots of things that we can do with stories, but let's have a look at some practical examples. Monsieur Jeffrey, pop your mic back.
Yeah, I'm gonna mic myself back up. All right, this is a stunner. When this first came out, I don't know, 10 years ago, it took me by complete surprise, and it took certainly primary education by storm. It's a beautiful story. Before I go, I'm going to show you some of the lovely photographs, pictures of this. Has anyone seen or read this book? Because if not, you're gonna be salivating at the possibilities. So here's someone's typing. Let's have a look. Let's see. So this is an absolutely unique book. There is the video. I didn't know there was a video of it. This is one of those books that is a resource that you can pretty much do whatever you like with. For anyone from year 1 up to I can think of stuff I could do with year 10 actually. So yeah, okay. Let me show you. This. I won't show you every single page because we don't have time. But basically, here we go. One is a snail, and it gives you a little clue. This is a snail's foot. That's all it says. Now you're curious. Of course, you'll love this. You will want this. Okay, here we go. Right, one is a snail. That's it. That's the first page. It's off to the beach. Okay, I can take that. There's not much to do with that. 2 is a person. Now, you don't need to say anything to the children because there's some arrows pointing to the person's feet, and there are 2 feet, which is interesting. So 3 is actually a snail and a person, and usually by page 3 children are going, oh, I think I know what's happening here. 3 is a snail and a person. All right, so we won't move it on just yet. Does anyone want to guess what 4 is, please? If 3 is a snail and a person, what do you think 4 might be? It could be 2 persons. Yeah. So here we go. I'm doing repeated addition. I'm doing multiplication. It doesn't feel like I'm doing maths though, does it? I'm having fun. I'm imagining. What else could it be? What else could it be? It could be 2 persons, or it could be a person and 2 snails. Well done. It's actually a dog. There we go. And now I go, oh, now this is very funny because here's the thing. Oh, thank you. Is that the link to the? It could be. Is that the link to the actual? I'm so tempted to press that, but I mustn't because I'm supposed to be talking. Okay, so 4 is a dog, and then 5. Well, it could be a hand, but actually 5 is a dog and a snail, of course. Okay, and so on and so on. Then we've got 6, 7, 8, 9. But look, 10, this is where it goes. From the title, 10 is a crab. And that means we can make anything. Now, if you think about it, this is place value. The words place value are never uttered. But 11 is surely a snail and a crab. Or 11 snails. 12 might be a crab and a person, or a crab and 2 snails. But anyway, let me just move up, because I said I'm not going to show you every page in the book. There's so much joy in it. But 20 is 2 crabs. 30. Any guesses for 30? No, don't worry. It's 3 crabs. Or maybe it's 10 people. 10 lots of 2 and a crab. This is fantastic. And then, look, to cut a very long story short, this book goes all the way to 100, which could be 10 crabs, of course, but actually here is 100 snails. Now, I've shown you maybe a third of the pages in this book, but the utter joy with which children absolutely receive this book, it takes a bit of skill. Now, this is one of those examples where you can't just retell, right? You have to show, you have to demonstrate. This isn't something like circumference, which I could read, or a place for 0, which I could just read. This is all about the images. And I would like to suggest that a child who goes through this book with the teacher a couple of times not only loves it and laughs at it, but also has an innate understanding of place value that they may not be able to express, but they will start to own. And ownership is a huge thing that's so often missing from people's mathematics experiences, isn't it? I mean, for example, how many of you felt at school that maths was something they did to you, as opposed to art or story writing? I'd be interested. Who felt that? Just yes or no, really. Did you feel, obviously art is yours, you create something. Story writing, creative writing is yours, you create something. But maths, yes or no? Did you feel that you were creating something, or were you doing somebody else's problems? So a quick straw yes or no poll. There's a yes. Okay. It is. It is. I want some yeses and nos. Just yes, I owned maths, or no, maths was something that was basically done to me. There we go. There's a no. Yep. Okay. Just going to wait for a few. I know there's 140 odd people here, so I'm going to just push you. Yeah, okay. So I've I've barely seen a no. Oh, there's a yes. That's good. Okay, so that's good. You still own it. Okay, that's good. No. Yeah. So I think, I mean, those of you who haven't typed in, I imagine I'm going to assume that you're this is a fairly typical representative sample. And I'm going to talk to you about someone else now who felt very disenfranchised by maths. There's a yes, hooray, good. I'm glad for you. That's great. I kind of did in the end think that maths was me, but that's maybe for another time. So I want to introduce you now to Joe. All right, and Joe was an ant, a soldier ant. Okay, well, that's good. That's good. So it's a shame, isn't it, that it takes us a long time to realise what maths is. I think at school, many of us don't realise what maths is. We think it's just rules to be followed and answers to be calculated. What will be 101? Oh, I don't know, 101 snails, 50 people and a snail, 25 dogs and a snail. I don't know. There's so many. It would be a nice investigation. What about 8 crabs, 10 snails? And, I don't know. I'm getting distracted by your question. Okay, which I guess makes my point. Here we go. So this is Joe. Now, again, it's not a book I'm going to give you every page of, but Joe was a soldier ant, and he was very proud to be marching along with the other 24 soldier ants in his troop. I suspect there are around there, but I haven't actually counted them. Now, what happens is they get into twos. They get into twos and they march along. But of course, there's 24 of them, and that's 12 twos. And he's left out at the back. He doesn't have a partner, and he's a bit sad. So what happens with Joe? And again, this is another one where the pictures are absolutely paramount. That's why these ones are in the presentation for you. Joe's a bit sad, so they go, well, okay, let's. They're marching past the Queen on parade. Let's go for threes. So that seems better. But look, they get into threes, and there's 8 rows of 3 there, and he's still left out, which is kind of quite sad, really. So He's getting a little bit sad. Oh, there's the twos. Managed to get that one in the wrong order. There we go. So there's he gets in twos. He's left out. Okay, we got 12 rows of two. Then the threes. All right, and then. So what do you think they try now? And you ask the children, what do you think they try? And they'll go, oh, try fours. Try going around in fours. So they all line up in fours. And he's really excited because finally he gets to hang out with people. Except he doesn't. Because look, there's 6. The other 24 hours getting 6 rows of 4. So he's getting really, really depressed. And then, of course, right near the end of the book, they have this brilliant idea. And the brilliant idea is what? And now, at this point, I might stop the book. I might ask children what they think is going to happen, just like someone said earlier, what do you think might happen next? And it's very predictable, isn't it? That you've lined up in twos, you've lined up in threes, you've lined up in fours. What are you going to do? Line up in fives. So they line up in fives. And of course, you'll have worked this out. If there's 24 of them and 1 of him, that's 25. And he's super happy. He's fantastic. He's in. And, there's lots of celebration and joy. Now, I don't need to tell you that this is about factors and division and multiples and remainders. There's something else in this book. Hi, welcome those of you joining us. There's something else in this book which is not mentioned, but this page, the ants are now in a square. They're now in a square. And you can't do that with any old number of ants, can you? You can do it with 25 ants. You could do it with 16 ants. Could you do it with 9 ants? I might say to children, investigate how many ants could you do it with? And there are some numbers that you can make squares from. We need to come up with a name for these square numbers, children, don't we? I wonder what word we could come up with. Well, I can't think. Maybe we could call them ant numbers or something. And so what you've got is that idea, that CPL idea, concept precedes language. We all know about CPA, concrete, pictorial, abstract, but CPL, the concrete preceding the language. Now, this technically is pictorial, but if you give children blocks or cubes or counters and ask them to make them into squares, then I've got 6-year-old children understanding what a square number is in a deeper way than maybe a 10-year-old might, because they just think it's X times itself, whatever. So I think that's beautiful. And this idea of remainders and division, really versatile, but absolutely you need the pictures for this, right? You definitely need the images for this. But again, I don't think the story is the lesson. I think the story is the teaser, the trailer, the springboard, if you will, for such rich understanding of math lessons. So, right, having said that, I'm going to move on to this. Okay. And so, Charlotte, you were going to talk about this.
Yes, I was, but I actually quickly just want to skip back to that previous slide there. Yeah, okay, so I'm not a maths teacher. I think I was lost in maths somewhere around primary school, and me and maths never caught up with each other ever again. Which is really sad. It saddens me in so many ways. I wish I had you as my teacher, Andrew, because right now I feel like at the tender age of 41, I now have a much better understanding of what a square number is than I have ever had in my life. And that's all thanks to you. Wow, like my mind is completely blown. No matter, like I was told, and this may actually be wrong because this is me testing my memory, that a square number is a number that is only divisible by itself and one. No, that's prime numbers. See,
Prime
number, my brain, my brain and maths, we are not friends. But wow, like just the power of visualization and the power of story there to make someone like me, someone who considers themselves to have an allergy to mathematics and numbers. Yeah, I always say to my students, I'm not great at maths, and I have very much this fixed mindset about that as well. Like I don't feel I have the ability to change, but just seeing this right now, it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me.
Brilliant.
And I can only imagine how it must feel if you are a primary age child and you are learning in such a powerful way. Um, and it is really, yeah, as the people are saying in the chat box, making it practical is the easy way to go. This visual is also perfect for triangular numbers. Leandra, are triangular and Andrew, are triangular numbers a thing? I
They are.
suppose they have to be. See, my maths again, it's not great. But wow. Yeah, just having that ability to look at that. But of course, stories don't need to be long, complicated tomes. As we've said, we've got books like these that are absolutely wonderful for supporting learning and helping children to understand messages and ideas. But even things like a little word problem in our book can be presented as a story. Now, for those of you that are working with Max Maths, you will know how wonderful the images and the visuals are in it. It is very much that CPA approach of the concrete, the pictorial, the abstract, working through that process, enabling that visualization of mathematics. And we all know that's proven to work as a strategy. But what we can see here is that stories can even come in the simplest form. This is a story. Jade has 89 stamps. She gives her friend 34 stamps. It's a story to use, a story that communicates an idea, a story that can help us to create those images in our minds. And we ask, how many stamps has she left? Well, when we look at this, we're actually looking at an equation, a simple equation of 89 minus 31. But if you take a learner like myself, who maybe has prior experience of mathematics or self-doubt about mathematical ability, and I do speak from personal experience to say that fear and that self-doubt can come in very, very early in the learning process. As I said, I became lost in primary and I never caught up again mathematically. um, the only thing I can do now is percentages, and that's because I'm a teacher. That's what I call teacher maths. So being able, when I see a visual equation such as this, 89 minus 34, I start to panic. I have a physical reaction to that. But if I have a story behind it, Jade has 89 stamps, she gives her friend 34 stamps. What I can start to do is visualize in my imagination. I can start to make those. And of course, with Max Maths, we then can explore and we can map that out. We can retell that story in a physical way using number blocks. We can retell that story using our own pictorials and our own diagrams that we are creating. Or if you're really ambitious, you can draw a beautiful picture of 89 stamps in nice rows and create it that way and take your 1 million stars onto the screen. So, what we'd like you to do, or what Andrew's going to ask you to do, we're going to give you a little equation, and in the chat, well, I might as well just do it. I've said half of it already. We're going to give you a little equation. So on the screen, an equation is about to pop up. In the chat box, can you write us a little story? Qatar 2022 album stamps. Is it football time nearly? I do not live in a football world. Right, there's an equation on the screen. Make me a simple story. How could you storify this equation? Let's see what examples we come up with. What do you think, Andrew? You got any ideas? What do you think?
Yeah. It's not just maths, it's M&S maths.
Yes, it is.
Mm.
Minuend, subtrahend. That's two new words I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much. What can I say? This so this could be about miles. I mean, the thing is, what I don't think we ever really say to children is that numbers are adjectives and nouns. It's a very difficult concept, that. You think about it. 12 what? I mean, if we see it on its own, we assume it's 12 ones. But actually, it's not always 12 ones, is it? It might be, anything. 12 jelly beans. Yeah.
Hey, there we go.
There's a
Marbles
story.
from Adonica.
You see, the thing is, we all overthink that. Everyone's going, what could it be? What could it be? And you just going, all right, if it's marbles, then bang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Two more. Two were eaten. 7 were eaten by a monkey.
Yeah, you do get some fantastic, because kids' imagination is so much better than ours, right? You know that.
Absolutely.
That's one of the facts of just getting older, is that you dare less because you know that some things are either unacceptable or absurd, whereas children don't care about that, so they will go to the absurd, hopefully not the unacceptable, But it could be minutes, it could be glasses of wine. I had 12 glasses of wine.
And then you had 7 more. That's probably not the greatest idea, Andrew.
Then I had 7 more. Yeah, but now I'm looking at the next. I go. So then I went to the bathroom. And dot. Now that's not but just it could be cups of orange juice. It doesn't have to be.
Absolutely.
And maybe going to the bathroom isn't the best example, but you know what I mean. I could have eaten too many burgers and I was sick. Yeah, or I put 19 on my plate, but then someone looked at me hungry, so I gave them 3. They could only eat 1 of them, took 2 back. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I had 12 essays to mark. Then my students gave me another 7. So I gave 3 of them to my friend, but she couldn't read them. So she gave me 2 of them back.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
How many essays did I mark? Yeah. And of course, then what we can do, we can get the children in our class to share these stories with each other, get them involved. Every child writes their own story and shares it with a friend to work out those equations, to work out those answers. Right, we're getting distracted. Andrew, I'm going to put my mic off and let you continue on. I'll see you in a bit.
Okay. I'm going to try something now that I haven't actually practiced. Never ever do that, obviously. So I'm going to go to this and see if I clicked on whiteboard. Has the screen gone blank? Has everybody's screen gone blank and white? Okay,
yeah, yes, you're good.
That's good. Now, does that mean I can write? I don't know. Does that mean I can write? Let's find out. Let me try and draw. And now I need to find out how to draw on this, of course. Maybe I should have kind of checked that really before I went. Whiteboard. Can't actually draw on the whiteboard. That's interesting. Don't know how to draw. No, that's my fault for not practicing. Don't worry about that. I will go back to the presentation. But what I was going to do, and maybe you can all do this on a piece of paper, is a dot. Just put a dot near the middle top of a piece of paper for me. Okay. And we're going to call that an apple. Okay. You can even draw an apple if you're feeling good. And then underneath the apple, not directly underneath it, but just one to the left and one to the right, draw a couple of other fruits. I want you to do a pear on the left and a pear on the right, a nice prickly pear. Okay. And I love that one. I love the example of a pear because it's a pear, right? And I've got 2 of them and you've got all sorts of fun there. I wonder if anybody can tell me, this is a bonus, can anybody tell me a very well-known story which has an apple and a pair of pears in it? A bonus point for anybody who can tell me. I better check the time before I know we've got time. We're okay, Charlotte. Aren't we? We're okay. We're on schedule. Just checking with my partner. Okay. Well, anyone know? Someone's typing. I'm just going to see if they got it. And it's part of my magic show. Actually, I love doing this for the younger children. So I'm very fond of this story because it doesn't appear to be a mathematical story at all. No. Can you repeat the question? No. Because I'm out of time. Sorry. The question was, in which famous story do you find an apple and a couple of pears? Oh, there we go. Someone got it. Well done. Yeah, there it is. Critically well. It's this, right? The very hungry caterpillar, whose name is Eric. We don't actually find out that his name is Eric, but I've decided to call him that. So, look, in the light of the moon, a little egg lay on a leaf. We know this, okay? One Sunday morning, the warm sun came out and pop out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. And I love this story because you never know what's going to happen in the story. It's quite extraordinary. He started to look for some food. Let me turn the page over. Okay. And on Monday, he ate through one apple. But here he is again. He ate through one apple, but he was still hungry. Now, I love this because you can actually look, talk about kinesthetic investment. There we go. One apple. All right. And then a pair of pears. And then 3 plums, 4 strawberries, 5 oranges. Okay, if you don't know this story, get in the sea, honestly. But this is a great story. You didn't get the name of it. It's called The Very Hungry Caterpillar. He actually turns into a butterfly at the end. Spoiler. It's a magic story, okay? But here's the point. He ate 1 piece of fruit on Monday and then 2 on Tuesday. Now, you've made a little triangle, haven't you? Yeah, with your... How many pieces of fruit are there in that triangle? 3. Charlotte's giving me 3. Okay, 3. All right. Now, underneath that, if you were to draw 3 plums, again, the central plum directly beneath the apple and the other 2 either side, you've still got a triangle. And, a 6. All right, there's 6. Yeah. So 6 is called a triangle number, and so is 3. Okay, now, and after that, it was 4 strawberries. So if you draw 4 strawberries, or frankly dots, who cares, underneath you've got 10, and 10 is a triangle number, and now you'll never forget it. 5 oranges, boom, exactly. Now, how boring would it be if I drew dots on the board, but just by sharing a story, and because it's in a magic show, he does actually obviously turn into a butterfly magically, all that sort of stuff. But now we know what triangular numbers are. And he moves along the fruity line of numbers, counting as he goes to realise that there's 15 bits of fruit that day. It's just a very powerful example of all sorts of things. You tell a story, you see a story, you act out a story. It kind of puts all of those things that Charlotte mentioned earlier together. So yes, you're reading it, you're retelling it a bit, you're acting it out. You know, so you don't think that you're one or the other. And there's that. I only thought of that because somebody asked about triangular numbers. Sorry. Right. So where am I? Okay. Oh yeah, a couple more. Now we're back to you. We've got we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left. So here's a couple of things. This is from Max Maths 2. It's a very clear image. Right. It's about dividing blocks. But don't feel that because it's about dividing blocks, it has to be about dividing blocks when you bring it to life. So you have now got 30 seconds to think how you might bring this to life using the principles we've talked about today in the chat. Go.
That's a big challenge. Ooh, I wonder what they're going to come up with. I don't know. I mean, like, my mind is completely blown. I think I might bring a little drama in, and drama is a type of story, I think.
It is.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when we watch a play, when we make a film, we could dramatize this a little, no doubt. Maybe how many have we got? We've got 2 blocks of 12 is a student number that I might have in my class. So I might try and get my students to act this one.
Always, yeah.
Rearranging themselves. Maybe we could even reenact the ant story that you were showing us earlier.
Yeah, 25. Yep.
Or create our own version. Our own version.
Yeah.
So blocking and things.
That's good.
See what our participants are coming up with. Ooh, Huda, tell us more. Yeah. Sports Day teams.
Good. Yeah. Chocolate bar, absolutely. 12 chocolate bun shares them equally. Yeah, you see, who doesn't love chocolate?
Perfect.
I mean, there must be some weirdo who doesn't like chocolate, but you know, you're dead to me. Honestly, I don't know who doesn't like chocolate. People who don't want to like chocolate, that's different. Okay, student has a crate of mangoes. That's special. And he intends to share the mangoes with fruit present. Yeah, exactly. Culturally appropriate. Yeah, use whatever your culture is. You know, if I'm coming to Oman, I'm probably not going to go big on wine. Look at this. Yeah, distribute fruit. Fruit's always a safe one. I think what Charlotte said is great. Children, okay? Use the children. Okay. Now, one of the great things about Maths is, although we're asking you to do a bit of work, yeah, simple. Yeah, context. That gives a why. One of the great things about Maths is the final example I've chosen for you sometimes does it for you. Just have a look at this. You'll see why we chose this. Well, a couple of reasons why we chose this. The story's written for you. I don't know who Tia and Toby are. Well, I do actually.
They're the characters from the book. You know that. Even I know that.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. All right. They're far too young to go to cos, but there you go. Now, they've missed a boat. That's exciting. You've missed a boat. How do you know? Because of the time. You've got the language of before. You've got the language of after. I mean, this is a great one to finish on, because actually, stories are there. They're there. I mean, it's no coincidence that I don't get photos of what my friends had for dinner on social media. I get notified that they've updated their story, because your life is your story. And so whether it's true or it's not true, it's relatable. And everyone loves a story. And look at this, it gives you the story. So this is a Key Stage 2, a Year 4 example, I should say. You could almost certainly, whatever you were doing, couch it in somebody's story. So I hope that's useful. Right, I'm out of useful things to say. Charlotte, back to you.
Well, I think what we need to say at this point is over to the chat box. Are there any questions? I think we have a few minutes left, and certainly I'm going to pop the contact information up on the screen, and maybe Amanda would like to join us again, just in case there's any important messages at the end of the week. But yeah, if you do have any questions, give us a heads up in the chat box. We've got a few minutes left, and we'll try and answer them for you.
It's not like I'm finished early, is it?
Can I just say, Andrew, how grateful I am. Andrew and I actually live quite nearby each other. I might be knocking on your door for some maths lessons.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'll read your story though. Come on, I'll read your story.
Excellent, brilliant.
This is great. Have you seen this? 365 penguins. He gets a new one every year, every day of the year. This is got a good eco save the planet message as well.
Brilliant. All right, Amanda, was there anything you needed to let anyone know while we've got a couple of minutes here?
Just thanks very much. I can answer that question. Definitely. You will get the PowerPoints. You will get a certificate for today's session and a certificate if you've managed to be with us for all 4 sessions. And there will be links to watch all the webinars again and share with other colleagues. Thanks very much, Charlotte and Andrew. Great. I love the squares as well. I thought that was so, that really helped me, actually. All the stories were great. Really good. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. Thanks again, Charlotte and Andrew. Great session. We will be running more sessions in January when we will start. So we've had sort of fairly broad themes for this week. In January, we're going to take the sessions, I would say we're going to take them a little bit more narrow and focus on some of the areas that I know people sometimes struggle with within maths. So we'll be sending out details of those. I'm going to say the Christmas word before we break for the Christmas holidays. So
is that the first time you've said it in 2022?
Yes, yeah. I tell you what, when we send out the email, we'll put in some of these books as well. And I'm sure they're probably all available on Amazon or at your local bookstores.
Oh, no doubt.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's been a privilege to be part of this. Fantastic speakers that we've had this week, and so great to see so many of you from all over the world.
And thanks again to Amanda for being behind the scenes, making sure that everything's working, keeping us 2 in check. And
no mean feat. Well done, Charlotte. Good stuff.
Thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your days wherever you are. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.